The following program contains graphic descriptions of courage. If you are addicted to mediocrity, or if your spine is made of jello, this show might not be right for you. Check with your chiropractor.
Proclaiming the truth in the highways and byways of the world. Fighting for justice in the dark alleys of politics. Raising the voice of resistance to a fevered pitch. The host who has no equal. He uses sweet and low. Randall Terry.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think so. No, I am a hater. I hate evil. I hate injustice. Oh, so close. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you. I love you. I love you. And I love you. We're going to have a great program today, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you that. Top stories. Who funded the Turkish vessel that tried to break the blockade? And the Obama administration has offered yet another job to another Democrat. And guess what? This one's a paying gig, baby. And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says, hey, let's break the international boycott of the Israelis and run the blockade. All of us get the Islamics together and run the blockade. Today's program brought to you in part by hate, because hate is a family value. And by intolerance, because intolerance is a beautiful thing. We've got a brand new song coming up to you, for British Petroleum. And I've got a new friend, someone giving their 2 cents. His name is Lonnie Don Slocum.
Well, I might not be educated like some of you people up there in New York or D.C., but I can tell when the barn needs a shoveling because it's got a little too much in the stall, if you know what I'm talking about. What I see developing here is a pattern. President Obama offered that feller up in Pennsylvania a job if he wouldn't run, and now he done the same thing with that man up in Colorado. What's his name? Andrew Romanoff? Well, hell, that sounds like a Russian to me. What's a Russian running for in this country anyhow? So, remember what my pappy said, son, you can't push with a rope.
Hi, friend Randall Terry here. Did you know that sometimes hate is a good thing?
Hate? A good thing?
Yes, hatred can be a good thing, a very good thing. In fact, there are sometimes, if we don't hate, that there's something wrong with us. If you don't hate child molestation, child pornography, child killing, if you don't hate crimes against children, crimes against humanity, if you don't hate genocide, something's wrong with you. Now, we're not supposed to hate people, but the politically correct, those that want to carve the guts out of righteous men and women who know that they have to stand up against evil, they hurl these insults at us saying, oh, you're filled with hate. And our response should be, you're darn right I am. I hate evil. I hate injustice. And as Winston Churchill said, hey, what good is living if after you're done living here in this muddled world, you haven't left it a better place? I want to help stop the spread of evil and start the spread of justice. And so you're darn tootin'. I hate evil. On to the news. A real live bribe. Look at that face. Andrew Romanoff. He actually sent out a press release in which he had the deputy chief of staff for the Obama administration. He sent the email out that the man sent to him saying, well, you know, if you'll pull out of this Senate Democrat primary in Colorado, there might be 3 positions available for you. But of course, Andrew says, well, I wasn't actually offered a job. You know, me saying to you, if you'll pull out of the race, there might be 3 positions available. That's not offering a job. And then when the deputy chief of staff wrote him and said, now here are the 3 positions that might be available, and then he read them and said, no, I'm not interested in those. I'm going to keep running. None of that actually represents, wink, wink, nod, nod, none of that actually represents somebody offered a quid pro quo. You do this, we'll do this. You wash this hand, I'll wash that hand. None of that really is what that all means. It was just a couple of old buddies talking, having a cyber beer in a cyber pub down in the cyber ghetto. Hey, why don't you not run for that Senate race? You know, you're both good guys. It'll cost the party a lot of money. And Obama's going to support Senator Bennett. I mean, he's already there with the guy who's in. Why don't you need a job? Want a little cushy thing going? It's not a bribe. They're telling us. The only thing I want to know is how many more not bribes are going to come through. I just want to see. All right, let's move on. What do you expect from an administration like this that's committed to openness, honesty, hope, and change? All right, the Turkish vessel that tried to break the Israeli blockade at the Gaza Strip, the Mavi Marmara. I want to know who names these boats. Who comes up with this name, Mavi Marmara? All right, I'm kidding. That was xenophobic of me. Anyway, it's owned by a Turkish charity. How many charities do you know that have been in business only since the mid-90s that have raised enough money to function, buy all kinds of arms and guns? Oh, I'm sorry, that's not their normal relief stuff. Anyway, but they have bought a lot of guns and can buy a luxury liner. This is a big boat, okay? This boat is owned by the group IHH, the Foundation for Human Rights and Freedoms and Humanitarian Relief. Insani Yardım Vakfi. That's the name of the group. Well, guess what? I know this is going to come as a shock to you. They've got terrorist connections. Go figure. An Islamic relief boat, a group that was created for relief to help the Bosnian Muslims, actually has been designated as a terrorist organization several years ago by the Israeli government. A Danish agency did a lengthy report on this group showing that they had ties to Al-Qaeda, to Hamas, and to other terrorist groups. The Turkish government did a raid on their offices, I think in 2006, and found, I'm not just kidding you, besides Band-Aids and, different gauze and antibiotics, they found guns, hand grenades. I mean, this is my kind of relief organization. They've recruited soldiers, terrorist soldiers. So we've got this massive hubbub going on all over the world. And I have to, as somebody who has a lot of experience in the media and creating tension, nonviolent tension, these Muslims who did this, it was a stroke of political genius. In fact, the guys who were killed told their friends, we are going to be martyrs. We're going to be martyrs. They set out to get themselves killed because they knew that it would create an international crisis and bumper sticker sloganeering. Now, the Iranian dictator / president Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is saying that the international community has a duty to break the blockade, and we'll see what kind of will they have and if they are filled with honesty or not. All of this has eyes off Iran. All of it has eyes on Israel. And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad asking people, hey, let's break the blockade. Well, excuse me, that's a veiled call for war. So, thankfully, the Obama administration is abiding by the rules, like the ones we went over yesterday. This was a totally legal action by the Israeli government. And even Vice President Biden, bless his heart, came forward and said that the Israeli government was completely within its rights to do what it did, and it abided by the law. They had a right to know what was on board that ship. So, at the end of the day, the Israeli government says it wants to make life better for civilians there, which I believe it does, but they have security needs that cannot and will not be ignored. They're not going to let Hamas and Hezbollah bring missiles in on ships run by this organization that has a known tie with terrorism. I'll be right back.
You have to help me. Being held here against my will. If you're getting this message, please tell my mom.
And Jesus said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you traverse sea and land to make a single proselyte. And when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves." Huh.
Are we back? I just needed some of my medication so I could believe Eric Holder. You know, Eric Holder's really funny. He ought to be a stand-up comedian because he says he wants to pursue justice. So he goes after British Petroleum for an accident, but he ignores the bribery going on all around him. Is this a great country or what? So I wrote a little song for the poor old guys at BP. I hope you like it. You're mighty fine chaps over at British Petroleum. You just had a run of bad luck with petroleum. So a scapegoat thou shalt be for all the world to see. It's a mighty big shame you begin your name with British. If it only began with American, you'd be delicious. But instead, you might be dead. Holder has a gun to your head. BP, thou shalt be the scapegoat for Obama. Welcome to hell, your own private cell with Obama. If you'd only had been an American firm in trouble, you'd have a golden parachute and a bailout to boot while the crude bubbles. But alas, you English bloke, the bonfires are being stoked. BP, thou shalt be the scapegoat for Obama. Welcome to hell, your own private cell with Obama. He's a big southern boy. BP, thou shalt be the scapegoat for Obama. Welcome to hell, your own private cell with Obama. Perhaps the Queen could write him a letter for you. I think he gets along with her quite well. My memory is that he gave her an iPhone or something with all of his speeches on it. She's quite taken with him. Maybe she'll send over Prince Charles to negotiate your release. Thank you, you're very kind. Hey, it's tough trying to write a new song every day. You try it. All right, listen, I've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the peaceful religion of Islam. And as I've told you over and over, it's not up to us to decide what Islam should be or what we wish it would be. And it's not even for the so-called reformers and moderates within Islam to try and define what it should become. It is up to Islam, its ancient scholars, its founder to declare what it is, and it's for us to learn it and then to act accordingly. I'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of the Caribbean, want to invite you to a party in hell.
There are two places where socialism will work. In heaven, where it is not needed, and in hell, where they already have it. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back to the program, friend. I have been and I will continue to devote an extensive amount of time to the exploration of Islam on this program. And some people justly want to know, well, who are you to talk about this? You're just another angry white guy who doesn't like somebody else's religion. Well, let me tell you. First of all, I spent a good bit of time in my undergraduate work studying Islam. I spent 6 weeks in the Middle East learning Arabic at the beginning at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And I am now halfway through a master's program on international terrorism. And a good deal of what I study is the connection between Islam and terrorism. So this is not simply a throwaway line for me. This is a passion for me. And I feel that part of my duty for you, and hopefully for other people in the country, is to share my findings. So my encouragement to you is to not settle for bumper sticker ideas about Islam, to do the research. But in the meantime, I'm going to share with you some of the research that I have uncovered. We left off yesterday with what is the Sharia, discussing what it is, and now I want to talk to you about what are the sources of the Sharia. The main sources of Sharia law, Islamic Sharia law, as told to us by Islamic scholars, are the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. Now the Sunnah, let me stop there. The Sunnah is the example, the tradition of his life. We're going to come back to that. Those two are the most important. The Quran and the Sunnah, his tradition, the things he did as a man that are not recorded in the Quran. And then a lesser two are the ijma, or the consensus of Islamic scholars. And then finally, last on the poll, is the ijtihad, which is the opinion of current Islamic scholars based upon their knowledge and their study and their research. Now, for a Muslim, all matters of law should be based upon the Quran and the Sharia law. It's just that simple. There's no alteration. There's no making it new or making it better. They go back to the source, the Quran and Muhammad's traditions. Now, as I previously mentioned, there is a certain order to the Islamic system. And what we have to understand is that if you look at Judaism, for example, the central figures of Judaism are Abraham, Moses, David, Solomon. Really, a lot of it revolves around Moses, because Moses gave the law. If you look at Christianity, well, it revolves around Jesus Christ and a little bit around his 12 apostles. If you look at Islam and you want to understand Islam, you have to look at the man, Muhammad. You have to look at what he said, what he did, what he allowed to have happen in his presence. Because Muslims believe that he is the perfect example of the Islamic faith lived out. So we're going to start studying the life of Muhammad, because only as you understand Muhammad himself will you begin to understand Islam and Sharia law. I'll be right back.
Let them be put to shame and dishonor who seek after my life. Let them be turned back and confounded who devise evil against me. Let them be like chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them on. Amen.
Hi, friend. I'm Randall Terry. President Adams, speaking about Muhammad, said, "The essence of his doctrine was violence and lust, to exalt the brutal over the spiritual part of human nature. Between these two religions, thus contrasted in the characters, a war of more than 1,200 years has already raged." Those are harsh words by today's politically correct standards. But the reality is that President Adams had done his own research. One of the reasons that Americans simply don't understand Islam is because they have not studied the life of Muhammad. Did you know that there's nothing in the Quran that forbids Muslims from looking at images or having images in their house? It's from the life of Muhammad. Did you know that Muhammad, not the Quran, but Muhammad forbid the mockery or the satirization of himself? It's Muhammad's life that is critical and central to Sharia law, because Muhammad's life is the sunnah, literally the way, the example. And so the most important thing that I can leave you with today is, if you want to understand Islam, you have to start doing research on the sunnah, the hadith, the example of Muhammad's life. Then you will understand what's happening in the Islamic world. God bless you.